Greetings, dear one. It is beloved Willow coming to you from galaxies far away for messages that will resonate here on your earth. Dear ones, we are here to address this problem that we see with so many of you. You have a paper problem, and it has nothing to do with recycling. It has nothing to do with the trees. That's a whole nother topic right there. But we're here to talk about your life that looks good on paper. How many of you have a perfect life on paper, but yet you go home and you know that it's a fraud? You go home and you know that it's inauthentic, because sometimes what looks good on paper does not feel great in your heart. And so we ask you to really examine and look at the things that you have on paper. Are they congruent with your heart? If they're not, then it's time to take a look at those things and those areas of your life that look good on paper but don't feel good in your heart. So many of you base so much of your life on what's on paper, by your goals that you put on paper, by your marriage, that you've got a marriage certificate to say, hey, I'm happily married. You've got your bank accounts that are on paper. You've got your paychecks that are on paper. You've got your awards that are on paper, your certificates, your diplomas, everything's on paper. And yet paper is easily destroyed. Paper can dissolve in water. Paper can get blown away. Paper can fade in the sun. Paper, someone can come along and rip up your piece of paper at any given moment. And most of all, paper goes up in flames quicker than any other thing here. So why would you write your life on paper, something that is not permanent, something that can be easily destroyed? Paper can be crumbled. Who wants a life that looks good on paper that can be crumbled at every given moment? No, dear ones, go into your heart. Live a life that feels great in your heart. Forget about the paper. Live a life that feels great in your heart. Your heart is with you the moment you're born, and their heart is with you the day that you die. You did not come into this world with a piece of paper looking to be filled up with goals and wants and things to show off, and you certainly aren't going to die with a list of your accomplishments and everything that you did in your hand going, look at me. No, you came in with your heart wide open and it said, fulfill me. And you will die with your life saying, was I fulfilled? Answer that question now. Fulfill your heart now. Don't fill a paper with goals and bank statements and zeros at the end of your check. Those don't necessarily feel great in your heart. And we're not to say that they don't, but for some of you, they really don't. Fill your heart up. Be done with paper. Write what you want in your heart. Show the world what feels good in your heart. And here's another point, dear ones. Paper is one-dimensional. Your heart has 4 chambers. It is a living, functioning, breathing thing. I would much rather want that in my life, something that has the power to pulse out into the world. My beauty, my truth, my life. You will do a better job of showing the world what a great life you have by having it emanate from your heart rather from a piece of paper. It will reach farther when it emanates from your heart. Because if it looks good on paper, you got to pass it around to everybody to say, look at my life. When it emanates from your heart, they feel it. They feel that. Don't aim or settle, because many of you are settling for a life that looks good on paper. But you are not allowing a life that feels great in your heart. And here's another point. Paper, we write on paper. We can write anything on paper. We can write lies and we can write truth. Paper can hold both truth and it can hold lies. Your heart, dear one, can only hold truth. You can't write lies in your heart. They won't stick. They won't stick. So you can write lies on paper and you can show them to the world, but you cannot write lies on your heart. What you write on your heart, with every single beat of that heart, gets taken out in the world. It gets amplified. What you write on paper stays on paper. Your heart is way more powerful than what looks good on paper. It can pump stronger and become stronger with each beat. So what you write on your heart becomes stronger and bigger. What you write on paper just stays there. It just stays there until you erase it, or time erases it, or it fades in the sun, or whatever. But what you write on your heart can only grow stronger, dear one. When you go to battle, you have a choice. Do you want the paper tiger, or do you want a man who's made of flesh and blood and living from his heart? You look at the paper tiger and you go, that paper tiger, it's perfect. All of its lines and its angles are perfect. All of the colors are precise. Oh, that is a beautiful paper tiger. And you look over here at the man who's a little raggedy. He's made of flesh and blood and he has this four-chambered heart. And you're like, I'm not so sure about that one. But you take these two out on the field and your paper tiger will be crumpled within moments. It will look good doing it. It will look good going down, but it is a paper tiger after all. A paper tiger cannot stand. What can stand is this weary man made of flesh and blood with his heart that is his truth is written upon. And when he's coming from a place in his heart where his truth is written, he will fight. He will fight for freedom. He will fight for truth, and he will prevail. He might not look perfect doing it. He might fall to his knees, but what is written on your heart is what will prevail. Paper roses. Would you ever want somebody to bring you paper roses? No, you would complain because you want the real thing. So don't settle for the falsity of what looks good on paper. Don't fall for the life that looks good on paper. Don't fall for the marriage that looks good on paper. Don't fall for the career that looks good on paper. Don't fall for the bank account statements that look good on paper. Allow what feels great in your heart. Allow the partner that feels great in your heart. They may not look good on paper. That partner might not match what society's rules are for your perfect partner. But boy, oh boy, do they make your heart feel great. Don't fall for what your diploma says, the one that you have on paper. Because maybe you decided to change your mind and study something else because that feels more great to your heart. But then you grapple with that because you say, I have this diploma that I spent X amount of years and I can make X amount of money and now I want to switch. And you walk away and you keep honoring that paper instead of honoring your heart. Dear ones, be done with paper. Write what you want in your own flesh and blood, in your own heart. And manifest it and show it to the world so you can stand proud. And when you go to bed at night, you realize that you are living your truth. And you realize that you're showing your truth. And you realize that your truth is showing up for you with a divine partner, with a career that's so suited for you, with abundance, with love, whatever it is. Dear ones, quit settling. Quit settling for something that looks good on paper and reach for something that feels great in your heart. We are Willow, dear ones, and we come to you with the brightest of blessings and the deepest of joy.